It's me again, Orc Slayer. What ifs? Where we last left off? Let's see. Checking. Huh. Deku and them made a run for it. Well, not made a run for it. Met up with some other big brothers. Some earlier prototypes, you could say. They met the original one called the First. And he was almost on the borderline of being insane. Then there was not Stalker, but there was Crawler, Cage, Dark, who had beehives, and Stick. These guys were pretty much the ones that were still like Deku and Kirishima, but they were forced to the outer edges and kept separate from one another. But now they're out. Miss Dr. 10, Miss Lamb and such are free from their little thing. As they pretty much told the United Nations, whoever. Yeah, sorry. On who they are, where they're from, going onward from that. As they're transported back to land on nice boats, everyone just is amazed, and they just literally go around looking at the ship, and then they find a room where they can just sit down, relax, and they even have a TV. Surprisingly, they didn't know TVs were allowed on warships or whatever ships they're on, but they just literally turned on and just sit down and watch TV. It's just and it's a news report. Later this morning, All Might himself had managed to take down several high-ranking villains. Sorry? All Might blew, cuts, and here's a personal interview from one of the hostages. And he's All Might just swooped down and just bashed, in a split second, 4 of them were down, and by another second and a half, the other guy was flat on his back. It was so cool. He was in and out like it was nothing. As then it just cuts All Might, a little fan thing from All Might, All Might, hero of number 1 hero, All Might, the best in the world, yeah. And then it's in later news, as we're going directly on scene now, as it's thank you, Miss Kim. Here we are today, looking at the Rapture, the city the ruins of the city that used to be known as Rapture. As it's reporting, as it's and right now, sorry, as it's this, we finally were able, the United Nations managed to finally get rid of Rapture and save all the children, or all the little children, who have over the years gone missing. See, what had happened during that time is Miss Lamb, sort of religious figure in Rapture, who had been using orphanages and other things alike to gather little sisters, and from what has been told to us, teenage boys, for experiments to turn into what has become known to researchers as little sisters. And the teenage boys are unknown until now, as they're it shows them on the boat. They're wait, what the? As they come in, as the military wanted to stop them, but they pretty much just, military, whoever wanted to stop them, they just flat say, we have permission here, as they walk in. It's if only if they want to, I guess. As they come into them, as they're as they just see them sitting down in the rec room, several heavily armored folks with as the drills and everything are set aside, guns and everything just set aside, as they all turn back, and it's just yo, and a messed up voice. I'm not gonna attempt to find a voice changer for that one. So hello, I'm Miss Kim. Is we could tell TV. It's may we ask you some questions about Rapture? As they all look at one another, it's just why? Because it's Well, as you can see here, you're one of the very few. What are you classified as? Big brothers. New breed to protect little sisters. Outphase big daddies. They were obsolete. Like, yes. Well, we were hoping you could give us some insight onto life, what life was like for you being in Rapture. Day-to-day survival killing. As Deku's finishes that sentence, it goes back to TV as he flips it to something different. As it's like a cartoon, as he's like, as he like leans back. What about you, sir? As it's Crawler and just turns his back. And you, sir? As Dark turns his back. Stick just turns his back, and as Kirishima says, apologies. All of us tired. Come back another time. As then Eri and them come walking, as it's like, are those like little sisters? It's like Eri, Mina, Miss Kim, or whoever I named her. It's like, can we ask you some things about being a little sister while up in Rapture? Like, well, sure. As they look at Deku, and it's like, do what you want. As Deku just slowly but surely falls asleep again. It's like, you just had like a several hours nap. He's like, I'm resting my eyes. As it's like, alright. As they answer several questions. They answer several questions regarding what the Rapture was like, what they had done, and everything. They tried to keep things less graphic than I would. In like how I described the stories, they just like say, we went day to day, gathered Adam, etc. As they got in-depth explanations until eventually like people just got annoyed and like removed them from the boat. It's like, you have been declared unwanted here, go away, we're all resting. So they're able to return to Japan, as little sisters who have been cured are like, they're trying to find all their family. If they don't have parents or anything, they are re-put in orphanages. And it just goes from there. Eventually, Dr. Ten is allowed to perform, now that I think about it, I'd say Elizabeth, actually, is talking with Dr. Ten, as she says, Delta had the ability to harvest the things that made them little sisters. If you wouldn't mind, there are some I own favor to. As then, Elizabeth cures Mina and Eri, as she returns Mina to her pink color and everything, taking away her bright yellow eyes and turning them into like her raccoon eyes, I believe is what they're referred to as. As then Eri is returned to her bright red eyes and white hair, she's pretty much an albino. if he was a little girl. That's funny. Anyways, as then she's like, I must develop treatment for Izuku Midoriya and the rest. As she's given full-blown permission, as with time she has, like with little sisters and such, she figures it won't take long, as she starts doing her testing on big brothers that were recovered from them, as she was given permission to dissect them, essentially, figure out how they work and such, scratch that. She asked Elizabeth to grab the data on how Lamb and such were turning them into big brothers, because from there she can work her way back. As when she's working, she finds out not a sad thing, but she calls in Deku and them. She explains that the surgery is not 100%. You may die, technically, or you could become mindless, become essentially Big Daddy, but it is possible you won't. As they're like, Deku says, I'll go first. It's like, Deku, what are you... Oh. Let's just get this over with, alright? As he takes a seat, as it's like, alright, all of you, go. I will deal with Mr. Midoriya. As she preps him and she starts going to work. Injecting a few things of Adam to try and like offset it and get it back to normal, as he's nowhere near human. As it takes her hours, maybe even a day of it's like not that she's... it's like, what is it? She's sort of just used Adam to extend a lot of stuff. She doesn't have to sleep as much. She doesn't have to eat as much, drink as much. And she lives a lot longer. But she's learned how to use Adam and such to ensure that she doesn't go completely insane and turn into a splicer. As she's figuring all this stuff out, she eventually brings Deku down. As, by her accounts, everything's normal. The only thing's wrong is that his eyes are still bright green and still has a really pale skin. So when Deku gets up and just, like, pushes off something, he didn't think his strength would still be the same, but it still was. As he, like, grabbed a doorknob with, like, a lot of his strength, as then he just crunched it entirely. As he's like, oh. As then he goes to, like, pull the door. As he's, like, pulling the door, it, like, breaks off its hinges. He's like, oh, great. Yeah. As then she comes to realize that she may have fixed everything else. As he's like, as then it's just like a... He's like, I'm gonna go grab something to eat. As his voice is now this... Oh, he's like, oh, I can speak normally now, thank God. I thought I was gonna be stuck with that thing forever. As she's like, no, you won't. Send next one in. Well, actually, I need time to sleep. Go grab you something to eat. As Deku's like, I'm gonna. As he, like, keeps walking, as he's like, throws open the door, and everyone's like, whoa, Deku. He's like, oh, I'm back. Oh, thank God. I'm still stuck in the 16-year-old body, but doesn't matter. I'm going to grab something to eat. Oh, as he, like, jumps up, and he's like, yes, finally, I'm fixed. Kirishima, you get in there and fix yourself up. Don't worry, guys, she'll get you all fixed right up. As Deku, like, talks to Eri and such, and the people holding them, like, who, like, they've been assigned to, says, so, he's like, can we grab some burgers or something? I'm starving. As it's, like, a lot of hunger. He's just happy that he isn't, you know, a big brother. Well, a big brother in that sense. Like, he still has all the abilities, but he feels hunger, he's thirsty, all that. So that's a joy for him. As when he, like, gets the food and takes that bite of that burger, he's like, oh, this tastes so good. As he just, like, digs in, he's like, oh, I never thought I'd be happy to know when I was hungry. But it's so good when you're hungry and you feel that void in your stomach. Oh, it's the best thing. As then he, like, takes a nice drink of cola or something. I don't know. He takes a nice drink from, like, soda and such. And he's like, oh, this is so good. As Eri and them are, like, also eating, not having to, you know, rely on Adam. As they eat their stuff, and it's like, he said it. As over a period of a week or so, like, all the big brothers are cured. Crawler, like, has to fix his posture, because he's been, like, constantly, like, crouched and, like, sort of hunched over and such. So it's like, you're gonna need several months to maybe years of physical therapy for your back. Kirishima was, like, ecstatic as well. He's kept his, like, hair and such, like, it's still red, and Deku's is still green, as everyone's like, oh, thank God. As everyone's been cured. As eventually, like, their identities are found out, like, of who they are, to see, and eventually all of them, like, even, like a Crawler, Crawler, Dark, all of them have been like able to find family members that were gonna take him, but eventually, like, just lost. Like his little, like, some of them were separated from siblings and such, who have grown up and now who have grown older and are able to support them. Deku, Kirishima, and the rest of them, though, are kind of an odd spot. Like, for instance, they have no family members, period. None of them have family members at all. So, Japan is trying to figure out what to do with this. But at the moment, everyone's clamoring to get an interview. Also, like, Mina and Eri are around the same age as Deku and them now. As Deku and such. Deku and Kirishima. So it's like, alright. Well, as Deku's like, what do I want to do? As he's thinking to himself, so, what do we do now? He's like, well, I guess we just wait around. Like, all of us want to go for a walk. As like, sure, why not? As they're like, excuse me, but you gotta take these people with you. As it's like, fine. As they pretty much just have to tug around bodyguards, like, quote unquote. As with all that, they're like, so what are we doing? We just gonna wait around until they decide what to do with us? I'm afraid so, ma'am, or miss. As it's like, he's talking to Eri, it's like, Miss Midoriya. Alright, Miss Midoriya. As Deku, they're pretty much siblings at this point, and Eri had forgotten, like, they really never got on I forget Eri's last name, alright? I'm just gonna be straight up honest with you. I don't know her last name. Or is Eri her last name? Otherwise, I would just say Eri's first, Midoriya's last. It's like, alright, so you see here, this is a bit of a predicament. You could be provided with government housing and such, and like, schooling, like, until you guys figured out what you want to do. As for you guys, like, since you're around that age, you guys could possibly wait, like, go into, like, high school or something. As for your other friends, well, they had families over in different countries that would support them. Mostly in the States, however. So, this is quite the predicament we have with ourselves. As he's like, I understand, we understand, so. As everyone's just, like, walking, enjoying this fresh air, the bright sun, he's like, and I thought I'd never miss the smell of the city. Rapture smelled like seawater, salt water, and trash. Everything down there was so dirty. Just realized that. As they're taking a walk, there's like a villain attack as Deku and Kirishima like got into a position to defend Eri. As it's like, it's okay. The heroes will take care of it in a moment. He's like, sorry. We're still not... Yeah, as a thing of fire came rushing towards them, as it's a villain with a fire quirk, as he blasted and missed like a hero, as it's like, wait, as Deku and Kirishima stepped forward, threw some ice and hardened his skin, as it just pretty much absorbed into him, as he's like, it's like, alright, are we still allowed not to get involved? It's like, yes, you're not allowed to use your quirks. He's like, what about atom-based abilities? As it's like, I think those are illegal too. Damn it. What about physical strength? We have that almost naturally. Like, the atom has essentially become part of us. As it's like, as he looks at like the little handbook, no. As he's like, alright then. As Kirishima grabs a bench and Deku also grabbed a mailbox and just yelled at Hiro to get down, as this villain was just chucked at with several things. As he's just like, ow! As the hero's like, thanks. Sorry about that. And he's like, no biggie. It ain't no biggie. Just, we were being attacked and we defended ourselves. As he like, yeah. It's like, oh, wait. You're like those kids who were taken to Rapture, weren't you? It's like, yep, that's us. We're free though, however, so nothing to worry about. He's like, well, it must be nice to be back out in the open. He's like, yeah. By the way, are you gonna tie that guy up, or by chance? It's like, oh yeah. As he's like, do you have handcuffs or anything? As he's like, yeah, I got a pair. He's like, why the hell do you have handcuffs? It's like, precaution. It's like, oh, whatever. So, as they get it explained, and he talks about stuff, he's like, if you guys do have multiple abilities like that, guys could try to go up, join UA, Best Hero School and such. Like, they may accept you, like, possibly, like, I have no clue. As one of the people who are guarding them's like, well, actually, that's not a bad idea. See, as it would have it, UA has been doing quite well, and they are always looking for extraordinary students. So it wouldn't be that bad of a thing, As it's like, got a point, is what Deku says. But I think we're gonna have to go to several years of school. Like, we taught them what we could down there, but, we were 16-year-olds teaching 4 and 5-year-olds. You see our point? It's like, yeah, I see your point. Good point. We'll start you guys off with, like, maybe a grade lower or 2 lower than you are supposed to be, and we'll go from there, alright? It's like, we're good with that. Like, alright. As they're set off and do their things. As a few months go by, as like, oh, wow. Well, they're pretty much at, like, 16th grade level, and maybe a bit higher than that. He's like, yeah, that might have been me. I taught them a bit extra, And they're like, alright. Well, we'll get you started off in this high school, or would you prefer privatized studying, let's try it with, like a private tutoring in, like, class form, I guess, like, to have, like, a few people doing it at once, you see what I mean? It's like, I guess we could probably try to arrange that, like, it's nothing, it's just that, haven't been around kids in a while. Like, I think me and him are technically in our 20s at this point. It's like, that is kind of weird. Like, we're technically, what was it, like, 28? Like, technically, but we're still stuck like this, but I'm still, like, 60. Oh, it's so confusing. Like, yeah, that could be a problem. As then they, like, get all this set up, it's eventually set up that they'll attempt normal school. If they can't cut it, they'll, switch over to private tutoring. As it goes swell. As they're all put in the same class, they all get introduced, as it's like, oh yeah, you're those guys on the news who got, like, escaped from Rapture. As one guy points that out, then it's just like a swarm of questions, as it's just like answering to the best of their abilities. Euro swarm Aryan Mina, well, the guys swarm Deku and Kirishima, as they're looking at them, as they're, by human means, they are tall, buff, and intimidating looking. As Deku and Kirishima are, like, answering questions to the best of their abilities, while Eri and them are trying to, like, talk normally, as it's difficult, as it's like, now, stop swarming them, it's time to get to class. As it's like, alright, you 4 can take seats right there. Alright, as in, like, does something like ruler, uses a ruler and goes click, click, or whatever. As he's like, as you can see, as we start off with our last lesson, as yada yada yada, as eventually they, lunchtime, several of the girls invite them to eat, and several of the guys invite them to eat. As it's like, sure, let's grab our lunches. As they have, like, Deku and Kirishima have big lunches. It's like, how are you gonna eat that much? It's like, well, you see here, our bodies were mutated with Adam and such. Thanks to it, we gained increased strength, increased durability, increased speed. A lot of stuff was increased. But the downside is our metabolism is quite is charged quite a lot. For the simple fact that, to power all that, we need a lot of fuel, essentially. It's like, you got a point. You guys seem to be doing alright. It's like, yeah, like, it hit me like a truck. When we didn't, I was like, felt like my stomach was eating itself. So we got burgers, and God, that was some of the best burgers I've had. I know it's been 12 years since I had a burger, but damn, I thought they would taste better. No, not taste better, taste worse. Like 12 years? It's like, yep. Well, maybe 11. I ain't not quite sure about that. You lose track of time when you're down in the city like that. It's quite weird. It's like, well, I'd say it. As then they get all that squared away as they go through their life at school normally. And no, they don't run into any people who are supposed to go in UA. As months pass, it's like, yeah, yada, 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 until eventually they get a message wanting them to come on a talk show. And it's not Eri and such, but it's Deku and Kirishima. Saying that they are the ones that people are interested in to learn about. They've heard about, they can, get stories from, about a dozen different little sisters. There were other little sisters about the same age as Eri and them, but not quite as smart. It's two of them, as they were still, mindset of a child and such. So dry. As then they go on to speak, as Deku and Kirishima talked with the government, officials that they're with about this, it's like, oh, it shouldn't be no big deal. You just go, if you guys, are willing to do it, we'll arrange it. So, alright. As then they get sent over there, and they're talked to by the people, as it's like, so we understand that you guys were down in Rapture for a long period of time. It's like, yeah. How long is a long period? It's almost 12 years, I believe. It's like, alright. As they go down a list of questions, some of their abilities, what was, some of the stuff they did, as it's like, alright, if you don't mind, we got a fan question, as they pick one from the audience. It's like, we heard about these things called Big Daddies. Did you ever fight one? As Deku and Kirishima look at each other yes, we did, on several occasions. As they explain, during the last several months of being in Rapture, they have been contacted by, are they allowed to say her name as they talk with agents? Yeah, everybody, it's news I've already been talked about her. Dr. Tenenbaum, but we just call her Dr. Ten. She created the Little Sisters and such, and she said that she would find a way to cure Eri and such. Eri and our two little sisters. With that promised, we worked with a team of other big brothers to hunt down and capture, as he puts quotations in capture, little sisters and such, so that way we could, save them. We took them to her, and they were cured. Eventually, it came down to one final battle, as we all fought a horde of splicers that could have numbered in the hundreds. It's 6 of you versus, well, not 6, but the 2 of you versus 100. No, we had 6, I believe. Yeah, 6 people helping us to fight that, as well as one other, but he perished. Well, 2 of them perished. Not during the fighting, though. After. Well, 1 during, 1 after. As they explain the story, as it's it seems like our time is up tonight, and I and we thank you for coming on, and I hope you all have a nice night. Thank you. As they get off, and it's Now, I want you all to give a big round of applause for the two big brothers, Izuku Midoriya and Ejiro Kirishima, or I forget Kirishima's first name. Just Kirishima, and insert first name here, as it's like Midoriya Izuku and Kirishima's Ejiro or something other. As like, thank you, and they like give like waves and such and bows. They walk off. Oh, why am I fucking yawning? As it's like they're the talk of the school again. Mina and Eri have gone along with the other students quite well. Deku and Kirishima. Sorry, I forgot his name for a second. Kirishima have had time to talk with people and become somewhat friends, more or less acquaintances. They haven't become as friends like as Mina and Eri have with other females. As then one day, after like a year and a half, well, yeah, around a year or so, maybe a year and 3 months. This, you know that scene with Kirishima and the giant guy in the hood? They're all walking by themselves. As with that happening, like the whole causing rocks to fall down, Deku's and Kirishima's instincts kick in as they push past Eri and them, like, we gotta call the, as they like quickly adjusted to back to society. As Deku and Kirishima's like, hey! As the guy walks over to them, can you tell me how to get to the police station? As it's just like, watch out, Kirishima, this guy's dangerous. As Kirishima's like, yeah, you gotta go that way, then that way, then that way. It's like, thank you. As he walks away, as the girls like fall down and start crying, as Deku and them are like, oh, that was bad. As it's like, what do you mean that's bad? If it came down to blows, I'll tell you this, that guy would have won. As he's like still walking away, as it's like, alright. As eventually UA starts to roll around. This will be interesting. As Deku and them like have a similar thing when it comes to the whole school thing, like who wants to be heroes, blah 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 thing. As everyone's like, oh, we got 4 students here applying to UA. As in he reads it off: Eri, Mina, Eri Midoriya, Izuku Midoriya, Kirishima Ejiro, I believe is his first name, and Mina Kirishima. Huh, that's odd. So are you guys related? We just had it officialized. They essentially are our little sisters at this point, as that gets sisters out. Yeah. As they talk about it and such, it's like, alright. As then they continue to talk about the whole thing. As everyone's like going home, Deku says, you know what? I'm gonna go for a walk, guys. I've been spending too much time not enjoying this as much as I should. I feel like I've been on guard a little too much. You get my drift? It's like, well, you've had the hardest time to adjust out of all of us. Like, yeah. I'm gonna go for a walk. You guys have a nice day. As Deku goes for a walk. As he's going for that walk, eventually, you know, sludge villain and such, as it like tries to jump on Deku, as he's like, oh no you don't, as he like jumped out of the way very quickly. He's like, I need your body. As he is like mid-sentence saying that, he notices who he just tried to snatch his body from. He's like, oh, it's you, your body will be perfect. As he tries to like get into Deku, as then he's like, Ice Blast. As he does it, the guy immediately freezes. Completely. Like, he's an ice sculpture. As All Might's like, I am here. As he sees this kid with pale, like, almost pitch white skin, green glowing eyes, and green hair. Also being quite tall for his age. Or being quite tall in general. As he's 18 at this point. Remember, I always age him up to 18. Because it makes more sense to me. As then Deku's like, oh, are you the hero he's after? It's like, yes. I am... Stop yawning. As he does the whole, I am All Might. Ah ha ha. Have no fear, for I am... Yeah, I hear your whole spiel. Anyways, he's yours. Have fun. I'm going home. As he starts to walk away, it's like, oh, well, could you melt him down, please? As it's like, sure. As he goes, and, like, snapping his finger, as I would, like, say that's the coolest way. Just snap. Like, thank you. And it's like, no problem, sir. And then he walks away. It's like, As in Deku... As in All Might jumps up, and, well, he doesn't lose the little slime this time, as he's like, well, that was weird, but, you know, how things roll. As Deku and them eventually, you know. Sorry? He makes it home, as All Might says, would you like me to, as All Might said before then, would you like me to sign anything? He's like, no, not really. As he walks away. As All Might's like, oh, alright then. Yeah, beforehand, that whole situation with his mom traumatized him quite a lot, to where he's like, heroes, bah, humbug. As eventually he changed his tune over a period, over the, like, almost 12 years of being down in Rapture. Would have been sure nice to have a few heroes then. But anyways, as they all eventually UA time, as they train over the 9 months to, like, get ready for 17, as they get ready for UA. God damn it. As eventually they, you know, from there make their way up, and they study constantly, and Mina and Eri had developed certain, like, other, like, abilities besides just their quirks, thanks to having not asthma, but Adam. There we go. Adam. I was watching House, and some stuff came about asthma for one part. Those little clips are funny. As Deku and them took months of training, and they practiced their Adam abilities with permission in other areas. Like, Deku and them cleaned up the beach, and with Deku and their help, they were able to crush down a lot of stuff. Like, some of the bigger things, they just, like, crushed it down. Eri and them have some proper clothes. Kirishima likes to wear stuff with, like, as he still became inspired one day by the whole finding a clip of the Red Riot, or Crimson Riot. Yeah, his name is Red Riot. Or was it Crimson Riot? I can't remember. As Kirishima becomes attached to his idea of always being, like, protecting and manly, as that was a part of him beforehand, but more so after he rediscovered him. Mina still is, like, her happy, cheery self, as Aries more realizing the danger of her quirk. She hadn't noticed it, but she has, like, as she accidentally de-aged a lot of the stuff, as Deku's like, this is a brand new fridge at this point. As he's like, wait a second, as he brings over, like, old worn out clothes and such, as she rewinds that, as it's like a fully formed jacket, like a leather jacket, as he's like, ooh, this looks nice. As it's like a very stereotypical biker jacket. As he's like, I like it. As he's like, oh, dang it, it's too short. As then he just, like, gives it to Mina, as is like, that looks like something you would wear. She's like, it's kind of heavy. It's like, that's the point. It's a leather jacket. As they start picking through the stuff as Ari de-ages things, and she's like, ooh. With eventually time, like, they clear out the beach in a matter of days. With them eventually ready for the UA entrance exam, as they're all separated over the field. Coming, like, into UA under not recommendation, though Deku was offered after All Might, like, talked about that kid, as the government did try to get them in on recommendation, but they all refused, saying that they had that for almost entirely of Mina and Ari's life, and good portion of Deku's and Kirishima's life. Mina and Ari, Kirishima and Deku, yeah, of all their lives, they had to scrape, scratch, bite, and claw their way to where they are now. And that they won't just because they get to sit in the lap of the government, and in some sense luxury, they won't just lie down and have everything given to them. They'll earn their way in, as anyone should. As they make their way to UA, eventually, actually, Deku and them run into Bakugo as he's like, move the hell out of my way. As Deku and them are like, oh, asshole. As Bakugo says, what'd you say? He's like, Deku says, I called you an asshole. As Kirishima was like, hey, let's calm down, the two of you. Right, Deku. As he's like, Deku? There's no way. As Bakugo's like, Deku? What, is he useless too? As Bakugo, and he's like, oh, and you still like this guy I can remember from my that I somewhat remember, asshole? Seriously, the guys used to act just like you, all high and mighty. As they're at each other's throat, Kirishima's like, alright, we're moving this way. As they're separate, as he's like, that can't be him, right? Deku's like, is that Bakugo? It's like, alright. As then Deku catches Uraraka falling, it's like, don't fall. As he picks her back up, then that's it off. As they're all whispering to themselves during that whole thing. No, not whispering, they're actually sitting quite quietly. As Mina's like, like, kind of bored. As Kirishima's like, sit up straight. As he's like, I am. It's like, good, then you'll learn. As Deku and them get all that squared away, Ino still does his outburst and such, and it's like, well, that guy's kind of strict. Would have made a perfect underling for Lamb. What Deku says, very quietly, to a point no one hears it. Not even Ida, with his super hearing. Like, how would Ida hear him over, like, other students and President Mike speaking? And then it's eventually 0-pointer, blah, 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 blah. As in, like, and here we are, as they're all set up waiting for the thing to begin. Deku eventually, with Uraraka talking with Deku's like, oh, good to meet you again. She's like, you tired? He's like, well, not you tired, but you nervous? He's like, no, not really. I've probably ran into worse. It's like, I highly doubt that. Highly doubt you've ran into murderous killing machines. He's like, not one's made of purely of metal. As it's like, alright. As he does like, you two are disturbing other people. Could you please stop it? As Deku's like, sheep. Excuse me? He's like, called you a sheep. With that attitude, you would have been led to the slaughter in certain places. Now, if you don't mind, we got a thing to win. As Deku like goes to the front, takes a running stage. As he's like, that was kind of a dick. He was so not professional. As Uraraka is like, is he okay? Open the head. As in, it's like, 3, 2, 1, go! As in, they're off. Yeah, this is where I'm ending it off. It's over 40 minutes. I hope y'all have enjoyed this. Hope y'all continue to enjoy this. And I hope y'all have a nice day, nice night, nice life.